Today, we're diving into the incredible story of a little boy who took on a massive global industry. A boy who was sold for the price of a cheap t-shirt, but whose legacy, well, that's priceless. This is the story of Iqbal Masih. I mean, just listen to that quote. Children should have pens in their hands, not tools. It's so simple, right? But it's also this incredibly powerful takedown of a world that would even allow children to be forced into labor. And that one simple idea, that became the mission, the absolute driving force of his short but truly extraordinary life. All right, so let's get into it. Let's really look at the world Iqbal was born into. And you have to understand, this wasn't just about being poor. No, this was a system, a carefully constructed trap, really, designed to catch the most vulnerable people right from birth. $12. Just think about that for a second. That was his price. When he was only 4 years old, his family needed money for his older brother's wedding, so they took out a loan. And to pay it off, they sold Iqbal. They handed him over to a local carpet weaver. His entire childhood traded away for just $12. So how does something like this even happen? Well, it's all because of a system called pejgi. On the surface, it looks like a loan, a family gets a little bit of cash up front and advance, but the catch is their child is now bonded, forced to work until that debt is paid off. But here's the truly cruel part. With all the fines and fees they tack on for, food, making a mistake, the debt never ever goes down. It just keeps growing, basically guaranteeing a life sentence of slavery. In this was the brutal reality of that system every single day. We're not just talking about work. This was straight up torture. Can you even imagine? As a little kid, being literally chained to a carpet loom so you can't escape. Crouching for hours and hours, day after day, your body just aching. Breathing in all that wool dust until you have a constant cough. And if you weren't fast enough, well, you'd get fined, which just made that impossible debt even bigger. But here's the thing about Iqbal. Even in all that darkness, something inside him refused to break. A spirit of defiance was starting to burn. And his very first attempt to get free, well, that's when he learned just how deep and how corrupt this whole system really was. Okay, so he's 10 years old now, he sees an opening, and he just goes for it, he runs. And where does a kid run when he's in trouble? He runs to the police. He actually thought they would help him, that they'd enforce the law. But instead, the police commander takes a bribe from the factory owner and then personally drives Iqbal right back to the man who enslaved him. The very people who were supposed to protect him were just another gear in this horrible machine. And the punishment for trying to be free was just unthinkable. His master decided to make an example of him. He was tied up and hung upside down from a ceiling fan, all to scare the other kids into never trying the same thing. But for Iqbal, it did the exact opposite. Yeah, that didn't break him. It forged him. It turned him into something else entirely. Because his second escape, the one that worked, would transform him from a victim into a full-on crusader. So he runs again, and this time, he's smart. He doesn't go to the police. Instead, he just happens to stumble upon a protest, a rally being held by this group called the Bonded Labor Liberation Front, or BLLF. And it's there that he hears something that changes his entire world. A new law had just been passed. His debt, that $12 debt, was now illegal. He was legally free. And just look at this transformation. It's like night and day, and it happened almost overnight. You go from the victim, chained up, voiceless, trapped, to the activist. Suddenly he's in school for the first time in his life. He's speaking at rallies. And get this, he starts going back into the factories, not as a slave, but as a liberator. 3,000. Let that sink in. That's how many kids they estimate Iqbal helped free working with the BLF. Can you picture it? This small boy sneaking back into these awful places, finding kids who were just like he had been, and telling them, hey, you have rights. You can be free. And this quote right here, it says everything you need to know. I am no longer afraid of him. Now he is afraid of me. The whole power dynamic just completely flipped on its head. The terrified little boy was gone. In his place was this fearless leader who was now making the men who enslaved him afraid. So as you can imagine, a story this powerful wasn't going to stay just in Pakistan for long. Pretty soon, this small boy with this giant voice was about to take his message to the whole world. And his journey over the next year was just wild. He flies to Stockholm to give a speech at an international human rights conference. Then he's off to the US, where he actually receives the Reebok Human Rights Award. He was even offered a full scholarship to Brandeis University. I mean, here was his ticket, a path to becoming the lawyer he always dreamed of being.
But Iqbal wasn't just there to smile and accept awards. No, he was there to tell them a very hard truth. He stood up in front of all these Western audiences and he laid it out for them. He connected the dots between their desire for cheap carpets and the suffering of kids just like him. He was basically saying, you want a bargain? Well, this is the human cost. I am the cost.
Of course, back home, all this success made him a huge target. You have this powerful carpet industry, right? They're losing a ton of money because of him, and they start to fight back. The BLF offices get attacked, and Iqbal himself starts getting death threats. He was a real, tangible threat to their business, and they desperately wanted him silenced. And tragically, they got what they wanted. But silencing his voice, that didn't end his story, not by a long shot. So let's look at this final, terrible chapter and the incredible legacy that has outlived him by decades. It was Easter Sunday, 1995. Iqbal was back in his village, just being a kid for a change, flying a kite with his cousins. He was only 12 years old. A man walked up with a shotgun. And in an instant, Iqbal Masih was gone. And right away, two very different stories about what happened started to spread. The official police report, they said it was just a random argument with a local farmer that went wrong. But the BLF and activists all over the world, they weren't buying it. They believed it was a targeted assassination, an execution ordered by what they called the carpet mafia to get rid of the kid who was costing them millions. And honestly, the real truth is still debated to this very day. But here's the incredible thing. His death wasn't the end. In a strange way, it made his message even louder. It amplified it. He became this global symbol for the fight against child labor. His story sparked consumer movements. It led to certifications like Rugmark, which is now called Goodweave, so you can know if a rug was made without child labor. New organizations were created in his name. The U.S. Department of Labor even has an award named after him. His fight is still going on. So, in the end, Iqbal's story leaves us with a pretty tough question, doesn't it? He basically pulled back the curtain on how so many of our products are made and showed us the real human faces behind the price tags. And his life, even all these years later, it really challenges us to stop and think, what is the true cost of the things we buy?